Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on KPAX, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, I'm Jill Valley.
And I'm Dennis Bragg. If you've been outside today, you know air quality is really bad again in western Montana.
The Missoula County Health Department reports air quality dropped this afternoon in Missoula, Lolo, Florence, and Arlee to unhealthy levels. Seeley Lake continues to get the brunt of the bad air. Air quality in Seeley is very unhealthy. Here's a live look at the Missoula Valley from our St. Patrick iCam. You can see the Lolo Peak Fire kicking up a lot of smoke. When air quality is unhealthy, people with heart or lung disease, children, the elderly need to limit heavy or prolonged exertion and limit time spent outdoors. Aaron Yost joins us now with the latest. Aaron.
Yeah, a lot of folks seeing deteriorating air quality. As expected, we're seeing sort of a flow pattern change. Earlier this week, we had it in the right direction to give us some sunshine and cleaner air. That has obviously started to change, and we're back to same old here for the extended forecast. Take a look at downtown Hamilton. Earlier today, our First Security Bank iCam, very hard to make out the Bitterroot Mountains. We do have an air quality alert until further notice out for Missoula County, specifically Seeley Lake. We'll let you know if and when that's expanded to include other areas, because like I said, we're in it for the long haul. I've got a forecast update on the way.
2017 is turning out to be one of the most expensive fire seasons in years for western Montana, with the tab for just the major fires passing the $100 million mark this week. And with no end to the hot, dry weather in sight, those bills will continue to soar in the weeks to come. Fighting even a single large fire can cost millions of dollars, so you can imagine how much money is being spent to deal with the more than half a dozen major fires that have been burning in western Montana over the past month. And while firefighters have been able to get some containment, this summer's fires are burning in rugged, difficult terrain, which makes suppression even more expensive. That's largely because all the fires were sparked by lightning in July. The most expensive fire to date is also the largest, the Sapphire Complex burning above Rock Creek. The trio of fires has cost over $20 million so far, with over 500 personnel working the fires. The good news is containment is now over 42% of the 30,000-acre burn zone. The Sunrise Fire near Superior, which covers more than 21,000 acres, isn't far behind. The cost here is nearly $19 million, but nearly a third of the fire is surrounded. Number 3 on the list is the Myers Fire, which has scorched nearly 14,000 acres in Granite County, with more than $15 million being spent so far, with containment at just 5%. The Lolo Peak Fire costs are also climbing rapidly, driven by the fact that aerial operations have been extensive, coupled with the cost of building some 30 miles of fire lines to try and keep the blaze corralled in the high country. $8.8 million have been spent last week. As of yesterday, the total is now just under $15 million. The Rice Ridge Fire is an expensive beast as well, with $11.5 million spent so far, keeping nearly 600 personnel on the lines of the 12,000-acre fire. And the newer Gibraltar Fire in the Whitefish Range is already running up a bill in the past week, costing $4 million for fire suppression to date. Other major fires on the tab include the Liberty Fire east of Arlee at nearly $9 million, and the Park at Arastra Creek fires near Lincoln, where the totals top $12 million. And while the bill is expensive, the good news is the investment is saving lives and property, with virtually no buildings lost, even with upwards of 100,000 acres on fire this summer.
There is more good news for residents near the Lolo Peak Fire today. Those currently under an evacuation order from the Missoula County Sheriff's Office will be allowed temporary access to check on their properties tomorrow morning. Starting at 8:30 tomorrow, residents can obtain permits at the permit station that's located at the intersection of Sleeman Creek Road and Highway 12. Only one permit will be issued per home. Those permits will be valid from 9 in the morning until noon every day. Residents will also be required to check in and check out at the permit station when entering and leaving the fire area. The fire is currently burning about 11,300 acres. There will be a community meeting Thursday about the Lolo Peak Fire. Fire officials will be providing a briefing about the weather, fire behavior, and operations. It's tomorrow at 7 in the Lolo School Upper Gym.
The Rice Ridge Fire north of Seeley Lake is now torched 12,100 acres. As I said, 10% contained. The evacuation warning issued within Seeley Lake, including Double Arrow Ranch, remains in effect. Residents are urged to be ready to leave if the fire gets worse. Seeley Lake, of course, remains closed to all recreation activities due to aircraft scooping up water. Next for this fire, a community meeting to discuss it at 6 p.m. on Thursday. Again, it'll be at Seeley Lake Elementary School. Light winds yesterday fueled the now 2,000-acre fire burning 7 miles east of Eureka. Fire managers say that in order to reduce the Gibraltar Ridge fire's threat to homes, they did some some back burning on this fire on the south side. The Deep Grave Creek Divide area will be placed under a temporary closure affecting all traffic. Residents were allowed back into their homes, but still required to sign in and provide contact information at the checkpoint at Lick Lake and get a permit. Grave Creek Road and the 10 Lakes Recreation Area remain closed, beginning at the junction of Grave Creek and Stoken Roads. So what's next there? A public meeting to discuss the Gibraltar fire, 6 p.m. Thursday. That'll be at Lincoln County High School in Eureka. There will also be a community meeting tomorrow to discuss the nearly 14,000-acre Myers fire near Phillipsburg. That's going to be at the Georgetown Lake Volunteer Fire Department. Doors open at 4:30. The meeting begins at 5. And of course, we can't mention every fire in the air. There are so many right now, but we're tracking all of them for you. You can go to our website. You can follow our mobile app at KPAX.com, and of course our Facebook and Twitter feeds for all of the latest information.
From the courts, a Libby man found guilty of murder and tampering with evidence in the death of 30-year-old Sheena Devine. A Lincoln County juror found 42-year-old Trevor Mercer guilty. According to court documents, Mercier killed Devine the night of October 5th at her home in Libby. A friend found her body the next day. In court documents, prosecutors say the two were in a relationship that ended before the murder. During trial testimony, a coroner testified Devine was strangled and beaten to death. Mercier's sentencing is set for October 10th. President Trump is facing bipartisan criticism following his comments about a white nationalist group at the center of a violent and deadly confrontation in Charlottesville, Virginia. The fallout has been costly. This afternoon, the president was forced to disband 2 economic councils that were expected to help him drive his economic agenda. Just before departing Trump Tower in New York City, the president ended 2 White House business groups, the Manufacturing Council and the Strategy and Policy Forum. In the past 2 days, several business leaders resigned in protest over the president's comments that white nationalists and counter-demonstrators were both to blame for violent clashes in Virginia last weekend. During the news conference that was meant to be about infrastructure, the president grew frustrated when asked if he would denounce the hate groups.
Not all of those people were neo-Nazis, believe me. Not all of those people were white supremacists. So I only tell you this, there are 2 sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country, a horrible moment. What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt?
Criticism quickly came from Democrats, Republicans, and protesters outside Trump Tower. In a joint statement, former Presidents George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush said America must always reject racial bigotry and anti-Semitism and hatred in all forms.
Meanwhile, an emotional memorial service held today for the woman killed when that rally turned violent on Saturday in Virginia. As
Weijia Zhang reports, Heather Heyer's family, friends, and loved ones spoke passionately about her advocacy for equality and how her legacy of love will live on.
No father should have to do this.
Heather Heyer's father shared his pain during her memorial service in Charlottesville, Virginia.
I love my daughter. And as I look out on you guys, you loved her too.
The 32-year-old was killed while protesting a white supremacist gathering on Saturday.
I'm sorry, Heather, that it ended this way.
Friends and family remembered Heyer as a passionate advocate for equal rights and equal justice.
She wanted respect for everybody. In our family, all lives matter.
Heyer's mother said her daughter didn't die in vain.
I'd rather have my child, but by golly, if I got to give her up, we're going to make it count. We don't all have to die. We don't all have to sacrifice our lives. They tried to kill my child to shut her up. Well, guess what? You just magnified her.
Virginia Senator Tim Kaine attended the service. Afterward, he said there was no place for bigotry in his state.
There are some white supremacists who have a bitter fantasy about Virginia, and they hate to see us move in another direction. So it's so often these outsiders who come here to try to drag us backward.
Senator Kaine said Virginia has scars from its racial history, and it doesn't need any more. Weijia Zhang, CBS News, Charlottesville.
Memorials for the 2 Charlottesville police officers killed in a helicopter crash on Saturday will be held later this week.
Governor Steve Bullock signs a bill aimed at boosting tribal tourism and economic prosperity. He signed the bill in a ceremonial signing today in Pablo. It takes resources from the bed tax to focus on expanding tribal tourism and also adds a tribal member representing the private sector to serve on the Tourism Advisory Council and other panels to help tourist activities on reservations. Bullock says tourism was a common priority identified in his Main Street Montana project from each of the tribal governments to encourage economic and job growth and business development.
We recognize wherever we are in the state of 147,000 square miles, it's the partnerships that bond us, and we need to make sure that those are constructive working relationships at all times.
Bullock also signed another Senate bill during that ceremony, which added a tool for CSKT tribes to enhance public safety and reduce costs of incarceration. The governor also made it to Polson to see their quick progress on a new affordable housing complex. The ceremony was titled groundbreaking, but a quick effort by the construction team. They've already got 2 buildings up. Polson Landing Apartments will add 35 new affordable homes that will rent between $350 to $770 a month to people earning between $9,800 and $36,000 a year. City of Polson Mayor Heather Knudsen says a rapidly growing job market has the city looking for new complexes like this to provide comfortable living for residents.
The vast amount of growth here is bringing many opportunities to our town. Tourism, entertainment, health services, and most importantly for our community here, jobs. With those opportunities, of course, come challenges, and affordable housing is certainly one of those challenges that we are facing.
The state kicked in $6 million of housing tax credits to this Missoula-based affordable housing developer, Housing Solutions, to get Polson Landing off the ground. They estimate it'll create about 90 construction jobs and generate nearly $4 million in wages.
Well, still ahead, our temperatures are heating up, and that means fire danger will keep climbing. Aaron has an update coming up.
Plus, if you plan on watching the eclipse, stick around for an update on how some of those popular places to watch it are prepping for thousands of visitors. That's coming up on KPAX.